The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, good morning there.
Good morning. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is another beautiful day in New England. I think the temperature soared all the way up into the 20s. You know, I almost went swimming today, but I just couldn't find a parking place earlier this morning at the beach. But
it's actually 27 degrees outside right now.
Wow, 27, heat wave. Heat wave. Well, I guess we've got, again, we have a whole myriad of things to talk about, but I want to touch base. I want to get off the, right out of the gate on an article that appeared in the Herald News about a lawsuit being filed by our former corporation counsel and assistant corporation counsel, Liz Souza and Christy DiOrio. They are suing the city for wrongful termination. They're saying that their right to due process has been violated, and that they're suffering emotional distress. Well, I think that's pretty funny, because how about the emotional distress the citizens had when they were representing us? And losing cases and forgetting to file and getting their big fat paychecks. They're contending that they had a contract, and now the city is contending that they don't have to abide by that contract because there is one of Liz's favorite lines, case law that says that a mayor can appoint whomever he wants. And of course, the paper did cite the Kathy Edwards case, the former secretary to mayor, or whatever I don't know what euphemistic title they gave, chief of staff or whatever. The city settled with her out of court for terminating her. But what disturbed me a little bit is two things. Number one, Liz Souza said in the filing that the reason given for her termination was it's just politics. Now, I don't think anybody in an administration by a lawyer would be foolish enough to make that statement. I mean, I think there was enough grounds for cause to terminate that entire law department, basically. That's what disturbs me. And the other thing that disturbs me is, I think they had 6 months left on a contract. I think their contract ran till June.
Correct.
So if we look at this thing objectively, let me do this crazy math that I used to use for, when I negotiated contracts and stuff. I mean, was this a fiscally prudent way to handle this? If we kept, let's say for the sake of argument, rather than try to use that money to fund positions that the new mayor wanted, if he looked at this objectively and said, well, if we get hit with a lawsuit, it's going to cost us money. It's going to cost us time. And it may cost us damages, because we can't predict who's going to win a court case. Now, let's look at this. They had 6 months left on their contract, basically. She gets $120,000, Liz, corporation counsel, and Christy DiOrio, mind-boggling $80,000 for somebody out of law school that I don't think's ever really been in a courtroom, but she gets $80,000. So we have that. We have $60,000. And $40,000. So we're saving $100,000 in salary. But if we go to court, we may spend a couple $100,000 litigating. If they win, who knows what kind of damages that may be attached. The bottom line is, this doesn't seem like a really fiscally prudent move to me. I mean, if it was me, I would have kept them both on a payroll. I would have sat them in the office at 9 o'clock till 5 every night. And I would have had them review every pothole claim, every legal claim that the city's had in the last 4 or 5 years. and made them work, and who knows, if they actually had to work 8 hours a day, they might resign and not take any money. But it kind of disturbs me, the fact that, look, she's gonna, they're gonna file a lawsuit, but in a situation like this where there's a 90-day buyout, and if you kept them on for 6 months, you had no liability. All right, so you're gonna keep them on. You can keep them busy. I mean, we heard in front of the council how long that, we've had pothole claims for years that have gone, and not looked at. We've got all kinds of legal issues that you could keep them busy 8 hours a day for the next 6 months. I'm just not sure it's prudent. And it also disturbs me as a taxpayer when somebody who had no regard for our due process when he implemented pay-as-you-throw and ran it through the health department is now filing a complaint. But that's the system. As an old attorney friend told me once, and at the time it was $19 to file a lawsuit, I think, I don't know, or whatever. He said, all you need is the money to pay the fee to file a lawsuit. There's no guarantee you're going to win, but you can sue for anything. And that's one of the failings of the system. So here we go again with ousted employees looking not only for the money that they lost, but for emotional distress damages. Well, I want to file for emotional distress while they were part of our legal team.
Well, Chip, the interesting part about that is not only are they looking for back pay, they're looking for front pay.
Yeah, front pay too.
Yeah, which I think is funny. And the emotional distress. Because again, emotional distress, a jury or a judge can award any amount of money that they might see fit. So again, you're right. Was this fiscally responsible? I don't know. If they had a 90-day buyout, I would have tended to notice that, hey, at 90 days you're gone. But I had made a commentary yesterday in regards to this claim, in that maybe it's time for administrations to stop putting in coterminous clauses in contracts, which state specifically when the mayor's term ends, whether by election, death, or recall, or any other means, that their contracts end. Therefore, no new administration would have these contracts binding on them. The problem that they have is nobody wants to sign a coterminous contract because they want their contract to be guaranteed. But, the reality of the matter is you either sign it or you go without. And, maybe that's something we as, a community need to stop pressing for and say, no, Mr. Mayor, you have no guarantee that your term is going to exceed past December 31. Therefore, or even past January 15th in some cases. So maybe it's time for you to turn around and stop writing your contracts with coterminous clauses. This way, you don't have to worry about it. And then at the end of a clause, people will start saying, my job might be up and I might not be reappointed and blah, blah, blah. But that would be responsible leadership and fiscally responsible. So I think that would be very interesting to see if that ever happened.
Yeah, well, I would really like to see them, it's always about, equality, but there's no equality. As I said, a few shows ago, I read the astronomical pay raises that judges and sheriffs and DAs and our legislature gave themselves in 2014, to the tune of 23% for the judges and sheriffs and 15% for the DAs and 1.6 million in pay raises for our legislature. And it seems that everybody that is in the upper tier of politics gets treated better. They have better benefits. Why do we need a buyout clause? Why do we need a buyout clause? As you said, I mean, there is actually a state law. Maybe most people don't realize it, and maybe the city council doesn't know it, just as they really haven't really brushed up on Cushing's for the most part. But the fact is, you can't sign a collective bargaining agreement in this state under Chapter 150E of the Mass General Laws for more than a 3-year period. Why can't every mayor's contract with all the people he brings aboard be a coterminous contract, be provisions in there where you can be terminated for cause, just as any employee that works for any city, county, or state has. They have, appeal rights, but they can be terminated for cause. And why a buyout? You know, if you get bounced out of a job, in most places, they don't give you your salary for the next 2 years or 3 years. If, you know, and I think both of those people should have been terminated for cause. And as far as not getting people in, come on. Christy DiOrio was right out of law school. She would be lucky to get a job for $35,000 as an assistant DA with minimal benefits. And instead, she starts off at 70, and now she's at 80 after only 2 or 3 years. I mean, you know, let's face it. Don't tell me these people won't come to work for $100,000 and $80,000 when the going rate for their experience and in their profession is 35, and you're starting them at double, 70.
Boy, Chip, you're asking for a lot there. But, you know, accountability, you're swearing. You're swearing on the air. They might take us off the air. You better be careful. Let's move on a little bit because we have another issue. The city council meeting was canceled yesterday.
Because of you, I want to interject that. The rumor is now, I apologize for interrupting you.
Oh, no, you don't have to.
But I received a call this morning that said that you were the cause of the meeting being rescheduled because of your complaint about the open meeting law. They didn't say it was the fault of the city for not doing it in a timely manner, but because you brought it to light. Again, we have an issue of, well, you know, you're being an obstructionist. You are.
I'm negative.
You're negative. You're negative because heaven forbid we actually try to get this city to abide by laws. But you know, laws are only there when they can be used for your own personal interest and not, you know, there to be abided by at all times. So I just wanted to, before you begin, and I'm going to let you finish, obviously, I want you to let you know that you have been. The blame has not. It was not the weather. It was Hurricane Ferry that created the change in the meeting. So with that, I yield.
You yield. Well, I'll tell you something. See, the problem was that the city council agenda normally closes on a Thursday, and they publish it on Friday afternoon. Now, they did publish it Friday afternoon at about 1:12, 1:13. It was received by the city clerk's office at 1:13 p.m. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, subsection B, states that except in an emergency, in addition to any notice otherwise required by law, a public body shall post notice of every meeting at least 48 hours prior to such meeting, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays. Somebody forgot that Monday was President's Day and was a legal holiday. Therefore, they posted this meeting with less than 24 hours notice. And I don't believe in blindsiding somebody. You know, some people said, oh, you shouldn't let the meeting happen, and then filed the complaint, and then they would have had to overturn everything they did. And you and I both know they would have never overturned anything they had done. So instead, on Monday night, I sent out to the city clerk, the secretary to the city council, and to every city councilor a copy of the law, and said that they're failing to meet the requirements. And as such, I attached this, which is an open meeting law violation complaint form that had already been filled out and dated for the 17th, which was yesterday. And had the city council meeting occurred, I would have filed that complaint immediately. And they kind of knew that I would have. After all, to quote a city councilor, get a job. But I felt it necessary, and I always will feel it necessary. As it is, we have a city council president that does not abide by Cushing's. He runs the meeting any way he wants, and now he's going to dictate when meetings will occur, whether legal or not. So some people say it's retribution. Some people say that was just the date that was available, but they scheduled it for this Friday at 2 p.m. Now, it just so happens that this Friday at 2 p.m., a lot of people will be unable to show up for citizens' input or to listen to what's going on because they have to work. You know, some of us do have to work for a living. But the problem is that not only is it unavailable, but a city councilor whose birthday it was yesterday and whose son's birthday is today, his wife, Dan Rigo's wife, scheduled a small vacation for them to go out in celebration of their birthdays, which I think is great because she scheduled it specifically to be around the city council meeting so he would not miss his meetings or miss any time from work. And they're still going to have it even though he said, look, I can't be there. He shouldn't feel bad because Paul De Silva can't be there half the time, it seems, either. But, you know, I mean, what's it coming to? You know, so we'll have the meeting, we'll talk about these things, and guess what? The people won't be able to show up, so we don't care. You know, I find it a little disingenuous to turn around and have a city council meeting when people cannot attend. And a lot of people, I guess, were planning to attend this meeting because they're in an uproar. So again, this is what happens. But in regards to Hurricane Ferry, I was told that I'm negative this week by an elected official. I had called out the fact that many places in Fall River were being plowed out by the MEMA equipment that was sent down to Fall River. And a lot of those places just happen to be in areas where politically connected people or politicians or whatnot were located, and their streets and the areas in front of their businesses or whatever were cleaned out. Chip, I don't know, was your house cleaned out? I mean,
No, as a matter of fact, I've got a bone to pick with Ken Pacheco when I see him, because I'm tired of clearing my driveway and then having to re-clear it 5 or 6 times. Because
join the club.
The plow comes down, and you know, after you work your butt off, you know, moving that snow where there's not much room, and you got 2 giant goal posts bracketing your driveway that you can barely get out. You've got to make 10 swings because there's a big iceberg on the other side of the street, and I don't
Right.
live on a wide street. You know, then they keep plowing it in. I mean, have some sympathy for the people. I mean, if you see it, you can kick the plow out and not push it into somebody's driveway. You get through clearing the thing, and it's down to the pavement, and then you come back out, and you got a 2.5-foot ice glacier across the front of you. It's just crazy. But to get back to the meeting, to segue back to the meeting, look. The law is the law. Silly me, you said, well, you know, I don't even know if our Councilor De Silva is there when he is there, because all he does, but he does, I guess he is. I guess officially, you know, like if a tree falls in the forest, does it really make a sound? If you vote present, I guess you are present. Now, if you know, we're not going to judge by how much actual input we get or work, but, you know, the fact is that there are representatives, and what disturbs me is this attitude that, so what? We have it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They can watch it on television. There seems to be a very pervasive opinion among a lot of the councilors that citizens really don't have the right, or it's, you know, they're granting us our right to speak. That it's a privilege for us to go to our council, supposedly our representatives, in a building that our taxpayer dollars sustain. And it's a privilege for us to go speak to the people that, you know, and I keep hearing this, you know, and then how many meetings have we seen been classified as special meetings? And you can't have, you don't have public input. And public input has to be restricted to just before blah, blah, blah. Well, you got all these rules. Well, I thought the rule was this is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And you know something? Call me crazy. But I think that we should be able to speak at every meeting. And we should be able to voice our opinion. And it should be like an old town hall meeting. And if it lasts for 5 hours, it lasts for 5 hours. If you don't like to hear the voices of the people you were elected to represent, don't run. Get your ass out of those seats.
I agree. And you know, it's really interesting, Chip, because even when we go there to citizens input time and we talk, they're all talking something else. They're all doing something else. They're reading papers, they're shuffling things, they're chit-chatting with each other, they're going out the back door to go to the bathroom. So you always feel like, why do I even bother? You know, you're banging your head against the wall. And I've said numerous times during citizens input, you really don't listen. So, why do we do this? And the people have spoken over and over and over again. They don't want certain things, and yet they blanketly approve them. So at this meeting on Friday, what they're going to talk about is the supposed audit that took place during the Finance Committee meeting, and what needs to be done. And that audit supposedly shows that there are weaknesses or deficiencies in the financial system here in Fall River. I'd like to see what all those are. But it just gets to be crazy that you get to be called negative when you come out and you call them out on something. You're negative when you're not getting the services that you pay for through your taxes, and then they turn around and say, no, you got to pay again. I just saw on Facebook last night a huge posting from an individual that said, the city council has already said there's no way to enforce the pay-as-you-throw. So don't buy the bags. Keep the ones you have until they finally do something, but don't buy the bags. And you've got the mayor and the city council and the city administration turn around saying, oh no, we got to do these things to support the city. I do enough to support the city. Do something to support me, like plow my streets. Oh, and by the way, Ken Pacheco announced today that he can no longer do any more snow removal unless requested by public safety. Obviously, during a storm or something, they'll have the crews out, but they're $1.7 million already spent on snow removal in Fall River. So his equipment, what little to none he has, because again, Fall River has never planned for snow plowing or snow removal, is taking a beating, and they can no longer afford to remove snow, and there's no place to put it.
Well, again, fiscal irresponsibility. Mark Monroe wrote a column, I think, on the 15th about negativity. And I will remind everybody that one man's patriot is another man's terrorist. So those are just labels. In the political arena, when you're branded as being negative, it means that you have an opinion that the people who are in power don't particularly care for. Because otherwise, you would be a patriot. You would love the city. But the fact is, look, I don't care what this report says. We don't have mechanisms. Everything's always fixed by hiring new people or hiring more people. And Mark Monroe's Dion's article, it was funny. I was talking to our friend Dan Robillard, who I give a shout out to. I know he's watching, who was a very, very astute evaluator of what goes on. He looks very closely at everything that happens, and we were discussing this earlier, how it's amazing that they always, and Dion's column ended, and I'm paraphrasing now because he said, in Fall River, the future never comes and the past never leaves. Because, what do? We have a fundraiser for people and talk about how good Durfee basketball was in 1950 and 1970, I believe, in his column. But he basically says, look, all we do is rehash the good old days and talk about stuff that'll never happen, like tourism. We've been talking about tourism for 30 years, and because that's something that's always down the road. We don't talk about, plummeting property values, neighborhoods falling into disrepair, crime, drug addiction. No, that's what our council talks about. The fact is, we have a spending problem. That's the problem. And when our bond rating got dropped, that's exactly what they said. They said what we have been saying in front of the council for years, that the previous administration ran this city like a circus and spent money on things that they had no right to be spending them on, like parks. As I said, it's nice to have parks, but you have to have priorities. But the fact is, what we have here is not an internal mechanism problem. What we have here is fiscal irresponsibility by the city by the elected officials because they've nodded their head for all these years, and this city has never, ever gotten itself out of the doldrums. That's the reality of the situation. I don't care what they say at that thing. It's not something that can be fixed by hiring a new treasurer, a new auditor, or getting a new mayor. It's got to be fixed by the people, by kicking everybody out of their seats and out of their offices that doesn't come back in and say, we're going to watch where the money goes, and if it's not put in the right places, you're out of a job.
Yeah, it's been true malfeasance. We've said this for years, and you and I have been talking about this on the show for a couple of years now. And it's absolutely true. And the biggest problem we have, I think, is the fact that, everybody wants to cater to everyone else's wants. Okay? This neighborhood association needs this neighborhood association wants that, this one wants money for this one wants money for that. And we see, and it goes right down even to the CBA. I mean, so you see tax dollars being spent everywhere and nothing is developed from it. Now we're talking about a TIF for 75 jobs over 12 years for Blount Seafood, okay, because they have 304 full-time employees.
12 years.
Yeah. Basically 6 jobs a year, okay? There's nothing in there that says you can't lose any employees. So, yeah, I hired 6 new people, but I fired 100, okay? And they're going to approve this TIF. And Fall River, again, is getting nothing. The only people getting anything out of it are Kenny Fiola and the politicians who say yes. So every one of those politicians who say yes to this TIF should turn around and realize that come September, the people should vote them out of office because they are financially responsible for this mess. They're creating it. The city council has the power of the checkbook. They have the power to say no, and they always refuse to say no.
If we don't elect the right people, and I believe that the ouster of the mayor was a good start, but hopefully the attitude of the people are changing. People are paying attention, and it's amazing. They haven't called the bond raters negative yet, even though they said what we've been saying for the last couple of years, and we've been crucified for saying that we were overspending, that they're running the city like a circus. But this seems to be the only way to end the reign of politicians that are in power. And I will read this from our good friends at the Boston Broadside, which I think CJ should post on how to subscribe to this periodical and get it once a month. It has some great information. The only way to get a Speaker of the House out of office is in handcuffs. 1991 and 1996, Charlie Flattery resigned, pleaded guilty to a federal felony tax charge. And then it goes on to say what he got free vacations from lobbyists, et cetera, et cetera. 96 to 2004, Thomas Finneran pleaded guilty, 2007, for obstructing justice and giving false testimony, repeatedly lying in a lawsuit on redistricting. And also, they were all sentenced. And our last, but by no means least, Salvatore De Macy, convicted 2011 by a federal jury on federal corruption charges and sent to a federal prison, convicted of trading $17.5 million worth of state contracts for kickbacks. Term limits.
The problem we have with term limits, Chip, is that we've already had a voter referendum to enact it, and the Supreme Judicial Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts says the voters don't have the right to limit terms. If they want a limited term, go out and vote people into office that will enact that legislation. You mean
the people who have a lifetime position in the Supreme Court?
Exactly.
And you got one that fell asleep because she had a glass of wine. You think that, and these are the people that control our destiny.
Yep.
Sorry. Vote. Get them out of office.
This is Massachusetts. Hey, thank you for watching Spindle City Straight Talk. We look forward to seeing you again on Friday. Have a great day.
Take care.